What's going on, everybody? This is Alex, aka the Anonymous Orangutan, coming back to you with another episode of the EOT News Flash. This is episode 79. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. And for once in what feels like forever, I am joined by a full hosting squad tonight. Directly beneath me, if you're watching on YouTube, the Piercer of Spells himself. What's going on, Stephen? How are you tonight, sir?
It's going pretty well. Excited for the upcoming tournaments.
Tournaments? You mean like a pro tour?
Yeah, well, that, Minneapolis, RPTQ, and Denver.
So many fun things.
It's going to be great.
So many fun things, I agree. We've also got directly to his right, if you're watching this on YouTube, Justin Forkenrath. How's it going, buddy?
It's going pretty good. I'm excited to watch some Pro Tour decks. Excited to talk about some Pro Tour stuff.
Yeah. And then directly above Justin, we have the Buster of Sleeves themselves. How's it going, Shawn?
How's it going, man? I'm glad I made it on time.
You can never have the time unless you take the time. So
on time, get out of here! I don't need quotations, Steven. All right, I can see you. This isn't old school audio. I can actually look at you.
We are a fearsome foursome tonight once again. The gang's all here. So lots of stuff to talk about tonight. Actually, only two things really to talk about tonight. We have the Pro Tour, which I actually forgot was going on this weekend until I saw it on Facebook today, and I said, oh, cool. That'll be fun to talk about. We also have some changes to the Pro Tour that are coming up within next year, so the season starting at the end of this year, is that correct? And then looping into next year? Cool.
It'll
It's
start
beginning
August
next year.
1st next year. Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
No.
Oh, well, the cycle starts counting start of next year. You're right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, okay.
To my understanding, it starts September 16th of 2018.
That's as far as the new point system.
New
but
point
Yeah.
Okay.
all the new announcements, the first new announcement hits for the first Pro Tour in like February.
Okay. All right.
As far as like the format changes and stuff.
Time is hard. And then we're going to spend the rest of the evening talking about testing, because when it comes to big tournaments like Grand Prix that most of us are going to, you got to test. So we're going to talk about our tips and tricks, and we have a good list that Shawn has put together for us. We're going to dive deep into that, and we're going to teach you guys how to test better. So you're welcome already. So yeah. All right, let's talk about the Pro Tour, guys. Right now it is going over in Kyoto, I believe.
Yes.
So
Kyoto, Japan.
Yeah, Kyoto, Japan. There are 462 of the world's best players currently there. They are battling out in draft and center constructed with all the new Devastation cards. We're going to see if this blue-white Pharaoh's Gift deck is a real deal. Is mono red the real deal? Is blue-white Monument the real deal? Yes, it is. It's going to be great. It's going to be a great tournament, and I can't wait to see what's going to walk out of here as the decks to beat moving into the next couple of weeks here. But there are a significant number of changes coming to the Pro Tour over the next couple of months and into next year. So Justin, you've got it in front of you. So tell us about what's actually going to happen.
Okay, so there is a whole mess of changes. A lot of people have probably already seen this because it was announced last week, but worth mentioning again.
Yeah, we forgot.
So to start off, the Pro Tour points are now going to be on a rotating schedule where instead of it updating once a year, it'll still look at a year's worth of points, but it'll do that 4 times a year. So that way, if you're a silver pro and then something happens, you lose your job or something, and you can't compete, you're out for a season instead of a year. Yeah. Or something along those lines. They're also adding a new bronze tier pro, which will be for 10 pro points, and it will give you 1 buy at GP main events and an invitation to the RPTQ, so you can go ahead and skip those PPTQs.
Steven's like, yes! I don't blame you.
They still need to move the RPTQ up. I was tweeting Wizards earlier. They didn't want to respond to me on that.
I wonder why.
I tweeted them too.
They put it in the middle of the season, so you play half these PPTQs already, and then you're like, oh wait, I top 8'd. I didn't have to play all those.
Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool that they added a 4th tier of pro club, because that just makes it that much easier to get on the pro train, so to speak.
To say you're a pro, yeah.
Well, it doesn't exactly get you to the PT though, so
That is
it's just
true.
like a nice bonus if you happen to do well at a couple GPs.
Yeah.
I got. If this was around, I would have gotten halfway a year ago.
Because Justin, doesn't it say it counts just the 3 biggest events you accomplish?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was another change that just got introduced. It says that your 3 biggest events are what counts for your pro point total.
Yeah.
And keep in
so-
mind this is per quarter though. So
Yeah.
before each it'll reset at each PT. So
Mhm.
once you the PT is the first event basically for the next cycle. So you do well there, you maybe get 5 points. Then all you have to do is have 2 more high finishes, and then you're kind of
Mhm.
done with that season, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely some interesting changes going on here with them counting only your 3 best finishes per cycle, and then you get 4 cycles per. It's weird.
Yeah.
So, anyways, on to somewhat more exciting things. Modern is a pro tour again.
Yes.
Yes, it's fantastic. We also get a team PPTQ, or not PPTQ, Pro Tour, and a team RPTQ for that Pro Tour. If you qualify for the RPTQ, you can bring 2 people who are not qualified as team members for that RPTQ. First and second place will get the Pro Tour invites.
Yeah. How excited are you guys for that? Team RPTQs?
I'm super excited.
Yeah, I know Shawn's got some interesting thoughts about it. I know we kind of had a pretty good discussion about what could actually happen at that tournament.
I don't love the team aspect because I personally I'm not a huge fan of team magic. I don't think because in my stance, if I take it pretty seriously. I want to succeed, and I don't like the frustration that comes with whenever you're on a team and there's one teammate who's just struggling that day. And so I don't like the idea of causing friends to turn on each other. Thanks for costing us a pro tour, because you couldn't pick up a game the entire day. And I don't like leaning on somebody else. At the end of the day, it's either I got there, or I didn't get there.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool. I think it has a good potential. Because I'm pretty sure I know which team I'll end up being on. I think we'd be pretty well standed, as far as anyone in the area. But it is a really crazy swing. And also I don't like the idea of team pro tours because they did an article on Channel Fireball about how favored the pro teams are compared to the non-pro teams, and if they're wanting to diversify and get fresh blood in the pro tour so we can have more faces that are recognizable, so hopefully if somebody drops off we're not losing a major portion of our pro tour faces.
Yep.
It's hard to do whenever you're having one of the pro tours favor the old faces.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty cool, and and the first and second place finishing is a little sucky, but it makes sense. They can't give out too many plane tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is for that pro tour, the team pro tour, there's a legacy component of it too, which is huge. There hasn't been legacy pro tour in I don't know how many years. And that's going to make things really strange because up until now, the legacy scene has been mostly regulated to just the SCG Opens, and even a less amount now because they've taken it completely off of their schedule. So to put the spotlight on legacy that intensely, you're going to see possibly just some really cool breakout archetypes at that tournament.
Well, as someone who has sold
Legacy's
most
pretty
of his
established.
legacy deck, though, I was told by my teammates that I need to be making sure I'm ready to roll on legacy, because our goal is for all 3 of us to win a PPTQ. Because at the end of the day, only 2 teams are going, so we want to be as cutthroat as possible. And so if all 3 of us win a PPTQ, that's 2 less teams for us to face potentially.
Yeah.
Right? Because if Joe and Bobby both go win the ones that we don't go to because we already queued, and they each bring different teams, that's 2 more teams. So theoretically, we're knocking 2 teams out of the hunt if we all 3 win a PPTQ. But I've been told to I'm probably going to be getting ready for Legacy, and I just sold a lot of my Legacy deck, and I don't think Eldrazi's not been phenomenally placed currently with all the Delver decks.
Yeah.
So I have to figure all that out pretty soon. But no complaints. I'll be I'm going to be on the most volatile format, probably the one that all of us have the least experience on, and I'm probably the worst of our team, so that's okay.
I know someone who can teach you how to play lands, and he's right beneath me.
Oh, I can play Lands and Storm pretty well.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, like, if this kid doesn't go to the RPTQ for any reason, I'm taking his Lance deck. Like, that deck is really good right now. Like, really, really good.
Okay, just put in the 3 months of prep you need for it.
I don't need to. I told you, we talked about this before we started recording. I pick up things the night before, and I'm gold, and you give me 3 months, and I drop the ball. You give me, like, a night, and we're set.
Give him 36 hours?
I mean, that's how I was for Eldrazi-tron. I played it at 2 F&Ms before I went to the RPTQ or the PPTQ this weekend.
Yeah. I
did it with Bant Eldrazi.
I do all, as we're going to talk about later, I do all theory stuff. So if I know what deck I'm going to be on, I theorize the whole day.
Yeah, but what if the theory is just play big guy, turn sideways, smash? Like, that's good theory, right?
Yeah, that theory is really easy. That theory takes no time.
Nah, you just gotta play a whole bunch of spells at once. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, all right. Any more changes to? I don't think there were any other like significant changes to the Pro Tours for next year. You know, Modern's coming back, the Team Pro Tour, and that was about it, wasn't it?
I mean, yeah. So Modern Pro Tour, Team Pro Tour, Pro Club changes. I mean, those are the big change, ones.
Though, is so the Team Pro Tour is also the 25th anniversary.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
And it is going to be $1 million event. Part of that is because it's teams, so they have to pay more money to these teams.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to like say like first place team splits $40,000 because that's not as fancy.
Yeah.
But also, I think part of the where they're going is because of the $1 million they're getting ready for that. They only have one out-of-country Pro Tour.
Yeah.
There's 3 in the United States in relatively smaller market shares. So like
incredibly
the event
small,
centers,
actually,
yeah, the event centers are probably cheaper. And then there's one in like it's a big town in Spain, but it's not like the
Bilbao.
biggest town in Spain.
Yeah.
Bilbao, and so like I think they specifically chose places that they could get good venues for.
Yeah.
It is unfortunate that we're only having one out-of-country Pro Tour. Like I saw a couple pros be like, I can't wait to travel the United States.
Yeah, it's like Richmond, Virginia is like one of the Pro Tour stops, which is, you know...
I thought that was Nationals.
Was it Nationals?
Is it both?
Probably both, I think. They're underwhelming cities.
There's an Atlanta one.
Whoa,
I think
now.
it's like Atlanta. I think Minneapolis is one. Like it's really not stellar. Like I saw somebody like make a meme, and it was like an old Magic poster. And it's like play the game, and it's supposed to say travel the world underneath it, and it's like play the game, travel North America.
Yeah.
But I mean, like they're upping the price for it. They're trying something new. So I get that they like. It's really hard whenever you're owned by another company and you're like a publicly traded company to go be like, we're going to keep spending all this money going to Pro Tours across the world whenever our biggest player base is in the United States. And then we're also going to up this price for this other tournament. It doesn't matter if you tell them it's a team tournament. Most of the shareholders have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
And most of the Hasbro officials are like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. You want to pay $1 million out? Like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So
part of that though, and I forget where they give the details for it though. There's a special. I think it's like an exhibition tournament that's going to be going on at that Pro Tour. That's supposed to be a major component of that $1 million. I could be wrong on that, but I remember saying something about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's more
stuff
stuff
across too.
Yeah.
And there's also
it's like a side tournament though, is what it is. It's not like part of the main Pro Tour though.
There's like 16 team GPs leading up to the Team Pro Tour.
Yeah.
There's 16 total in the year, and I think like 10 or 11 of them are before the Team Pro Tour. And I think I read somewhere that if you win, if you top 4 a Team GP before the Team Pro Tour, you can defer your Team Pro Tour entry to the Team Pro Tour. And then like the GPs before the Team Pro Tour, if you top 8 it, you don't have to find a team to go to that Pro Tour. You can defer it to the one after the team one.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure it's all team GPs queue you for the team Pro Tour, and to compensate for those being like out of that cycle, they've added more single GPs in the respected quarters.
Okay. There are a few team GPs after the Team Pro Tour because they didn't want to flood team GPs, and so I don't know like how those have worked historically with qualifying for stuff.
I did think of another thing that is important to announce because many people freaked out when Modern and Legacy were going to be in the Pro Tour. Aaron Forsyth tweeted that there will be no shake-up bannings before the Pro Tour.
At least yet.
They need more data.
They didn't say that there would be no. Yeah, they're just gonna continue doing things the way that they're doing now, which is which is we're not gonna ban to change the format. We're just gonna ban a problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's good. That's good. Now
there's still time for Splinter Twin to come back.
Well, no. I did read an article, and the guy was like listing cards that might get banned, and a lot of them I didn't agree with. But like his bottom one and like his number one deck that might get banned was Lantern of Insight pieces, and he said that it's just really likely to get banned because it's not something that people are going to want to watch at the Pro Tour. So if people start doing well with it competitively at GPs, and they think that it's hitting viewership, that they might actually ban pieces out of it just to take care of the problem.
From a promotional standpoint, that's a different topic for another episode.
I didn't agree.
So
I didn't agree with a
funny
lot
to
of his
see
argument.
one of the Milrocks banned. Like they just get rid of Pixis so that you can't exile Ancient Grudge.
Ancient Grudge is a beating. I don't like. His article was like a couple good ones, but a lot of it was out there because he was like trying to do like 15. Yeah. And I was like, there's not 15 bannable cards, so I don't think so.
I've seen a couple. I think Emma Handy actually posted a list of like she was like a mailbag episode over on Star City Games today where she talked about cards that she'd like to see banned. She didn't give a list, but she gave a list of cards that are probably on a list to be watched somewhere, and it was a good 15 cards strong. We're talking like Death Shadow, Blood Moon, Chalice of the Void, Urza's Tower. Like just kill one of the pieces. It was a good.
You're killing all the pieces if you take out one.
Yeah, you take one, you kill them all. Yeah.
They should restrict Tron if they're gonna do anything. They shouldn't just ban one of the pieces.
All right, this is turning. Dude, I
would take restricted modern so much. Oh,
I know. Like I would like be fine with Infect getting Probe back if it was restricted. I have Infect Storm and like a couple others. Like I think it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And we could go ahead and add like Mox Opal to that list.
Yeah.
Shut up. No, still have.
Can I have one Splinter Twin? Just
if we're not restricted Simeon Spirit Guy, we're not restricted.
Well, yeah, Simeon would get added too.
All right, let's not go into modern season. It's not modern season yet, but this is a good episode.
It is modern season.
Oh, it is, yeah. Except down here in my neck of the woods where there are no modern PPTQs, and I'm really mad.
It's literally only modern season right now.
Yeah. Well, no. There's a sealed PTQ at Common Grounds this weekend if you want to go to that, and then there's modern at Sci-Fi.
Right.
Yeah, I was really excited.
Modern to Sci-Fi is on Sunday, right?
Yeah, Sunday. Yep.
All right.
I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna play on MTGO challenges because I don't think PTQs are worth it anymore.
EOT.
Wah wah.
I might see.
I don't think they are, but since whenever people don't have free flights, you only have so many options, buddy.
No, even if I didn't, I don't think I would be traveling the PPTQs.
You say that, but if you didn't have free flights. I mean, like they're
not entirely free anymore, though. So
mostly, you would
like
70%
free. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to just choose not to play Magic anymore because that's like your only option.
No, I just play on Magic Online, dude. Holy crap, Vintage is so much fun, and I can rent it through Mana Traders now because I got a Lotus off the last Vintage challenge. I am so excited.
Vintage is not taking me to the Pro Tour, so I'm not as concerned with Vintage.
Not anytime soon, at least. All right, let's talk about testing, guys, because in order to prepare for one of these tournaments, like a PPTQ or an online challenge like Steven's going to be doing, you have to test, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
0 percentage points a bunch.
Small amount.
Yeah, if you're Shawn, just pick it up the night before, apparently.
Yeah. Or me, and just go to a PPTQ with a deck you've only played once and did horribly with an FNM.
My most successful finishes have been night before.
Yeah.
White Black Stern Constable from GP Denver that I got 29th in. Got that Thursday morning before the GP.
Well, let's talk about the testing process in general, and we have this broken down here. Shawn did a really great list. It breaks it down into basically 3 pillars. You have your theory, your play, and your documentation, and we break these down into smaller points. So Shawn, walk us through the theory aspect of this first to kind of give us a framework to build from here.
So, as Steven kind of alluded to earlier, recently I've been trying to get better at actually playtesting now that I'm using a rental system and playtesting online. I haven't playtested in paper as much recently, but I do a lot of online playtesting. But historically, I've changed decks a lot, and I won't have much time to playtest when I'm teaching and stuff. So theory is my most important part of my testing. And what I mean by theory is what are you doing in your head before you ever sit down to play? Yeah. For theory, I think it's the most important thing is whenever you're getting close to deciding a deck, you need to identify the top decks in the format at least around 5. Most formats should have about 5 decks. Even if there's like 3 best and 2 others, like identify 5 decks you'll expect to see. And you need to take the deck that you're going to play and identify, okay, how do you beat these other decks? Like, how are you doing? Are you doing it through damage? Are you doing it through control? Are you typically the aggressor, or are you the reactive deck? And what cards do you need or want to see? This is going to help with your mulligan decisions. As far as whenever you're playing the matchup, I want to see this card in my hand, I don't. As well as which cards are not as important in this matchup as they are other matchups. Like, for some decks, you might have a card that just wins against green-black energy, but it's not very good against control. But because it's such a staple of your deck, like Hangerback Walker is not as great against control as it is for some of the more aggression-y decks. So you can run Hangerback Walker out, try to get them to counter or interact with that thing so you can resolve a bigger threat later. Yeah. And so you want to have those theories kind of down before you even go into the testing. Have an idea of how you're supposed to attack the deck by playing the games out in your head. You also want to have a sideboard plan versus most of your major lists. You don't necessarily have to have it all planned out. I don't write down my sideboard plans very often. Sometimes I will, and I normally end up stop using them halfway through the tournament because each deck is a little different. So you need to see what they're doing, but you should have a general idea, because there's too often where I'll build a deck last minute, because it's what I've historically done a lot, and I'll finish a tournament and realize I basically had an 11-card sideboard. These 4 cards never came in. The matchup I wanted them for, I didn't have enough to take out because I didn't think things through. So you need to know what your plan is when you're going into these matchups, so you're not dying before the first round of the tournament because you have a dead sideboard or you don't know how to sideboard against them.
Yeah.
Also, you have you want to know what you're mulliganing, especially in the blind game ones. What hands are keepable against most of the format and with what your deck's trying to do, and then really whenever you've brainstormed against the top decks, what hands do you want to see against the different archetypes? Because what hand is keepable for your mono red matchup might not be keepable for your control matchup. In most cases, it's not. So game 1, you need to decide what are the hands you want to have, and then game 2s and 3s, what are the hands you have to have. And so, like, especially with the new Vancouver mulligans, you can be a lot more aggressive with that. People are too afraid to mulligan, but you need to be more aggressive mulliganing. And how many lands do you need to see? If you're a deck that has to have 3 to 5 lands to operate, and you mold a 6, you keep a 2-lander, you scry the top card, and it's not a land, but it's a really good one. If you're on the play, you have to send it away because you know you need 3 to 6 lands, and so that means you're only giving yourself like 2 draw steps to get there. So you want to make sure that you're knowing what you need to have. And then lastly, this is kind of the most obvious, is what deck are you? In most cases, you have a little bit of flexibility with a lot of the mid-range decks that are commonly in standard, but if you're playing mono red, you're never going to take the role of control very often. Unless things are coming terribly unbound. Because you're
control. Let's do that.
Well, because these mono red aggro decks aren't built.
I know.
Yeah, these mono red aggro decks, like, I have some burn spells, but my guys can't block, so I'm not going to be a control deck. Yeah. And if I'm playing blue red control in current standard, yes, I can become aggressive with like Gear Hulks, but not till turn 6 at the earliest. So there's rarely am I ever the aggressor. So you should keep that in mind. You want to keep hands that fill the role that you think you're going to fill. If I'm playing blue-white gifts against mono-red, I'm looking for hands that are the control hands, that have the life gain, that have the interaction. If I'm playing blue-white gift versus control, I'm the aggressor. He has way more of a control deck. So I need to keep the hands that have a lot of low curve, a lot of card draw spells and looting, and are just going to speed out there. I don't want to keep a lot of my gift combo pieces. I don't want to keep a bunch of refurbishes and gate to the afterlives because I'm playing very slowly and I'm starting to play into their game. I want to keep a handful of creatures and draw spells, so I can keep refueling it. So you just got to know what your goal is versus the format, and all of those are kind of tied together. But you need to know what you're looking for. What are you trying to accomplish? How are you going to accomplish it? And that comes into, like, same as a play. Like, too often players, especially when you see players playing slowly, if somebody asks you what's your plan, you should be able to tell them whenever you're in testing relatively what you think you're going to do to accomplish a plan. Yeah. If you look at your hand and you look at the board state, and so your opponent and your friend is watching you test and goes, okay, so what's happening? And you go, well, right now I just have these cards in hand. And they go, okay, but what is going to happen? And you go, well, I don't know. I don't know what's in their hand. Well, the moment you're playing reactively, you're losing games.
Yes.
You need to have a goal and a plan and a destination and adapt that as the game goes on.
Yeah. And one thing I want to kind of add to that, and it does fit into a couple of the points you made here, is figure out what your end game board state looks like. Mm-hmm. What does the board state look like when you have crossed off that last point of damage on their life total? And if you can kind of build towards that, that's going to give you a better framework to build around. Because obviously you have no idea what's actually going to look like. But if you have an idea of, well, I need 5 creatures in play, and I need them to have their creatures in the graveyard, obviously, or anything else like that, what does the end state look like for the game for me to give the best shot of winning?
And that'll vary. Like in your game ones, it's what does your goldfish end state look like, right?
Right.
Or your hands versus the current meta look like. But then games 2 and 3, you need to adapt that viewpoint and realize you have to temper your expectations, right? So if I'm playing against mono red and I'm playing blue-eye gift of the God Pharaoh, my in-board state is 3 Sunscourge champions, I'm at 7, and my opponent's board is empty.
Yeah.
Against control, or maybe I have a gift in play, but against control, my in-board state is like, I have a 2-1 and a 4-4, and I have 1 card in hand, and thank God they have 0, because they're dead. Like, you've used all your resources. Yeah. You can't apply your goal from red deck to your goal from the aggro deck once you know the matchup and realistically accomplish that. It's just not doable.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So to take my point and go a step further,
Yeah.
Yeah. So Stephen, Justin, you guys have any kind of like additional theory points here? Because I mean, those are all like really solid. Like, if you just figure that out, I think you're already light years ahead against most people, actually.
Well, and I think the reason this is like the most important step is because you can do it anywhere. Like I was saying earlier, I'm real notorious for I teach. So if I'm at school and I'm on a conference period, I'm at lunch, I'm at recess, my students are taking a test while I'm walking the room, I'll be walking through matchups in my head because I just have to passively observe.
Yeah.
And so I'll be thinking these things through. I'll play a million games of Magic in my head while I'm at work compared to 100, 200 games online across a month. It's just totally different. So you get a lot more rep time on your own than you're ever going to get at your computer. And so that's why the theory part is so vital.
Yeah, most definitely.
And I think his list was pretty exhaustive. I can't think of anything to add to it right there. I mean, study the metagame, understand how your deck functions within that, and etc. I mean, it's pretty exhaustive.
Yep, for sure. And so then once you've crafted the theory, you have to play, obviously. And if you're Shawn, you play in your head, which, that's a scary place to be, I imagine.
That's why I look so confused at school all the time, because people ask me a question, Mr. Hughes, I don't understand question number 3, and I'm like, what? Lethal. Sorry, not lethal. I'm not threatening you, child. What's your question?
Stopping your upkeep. Mill effects, you can keep that.
Yeah.
Keep that. Crack bell. Go.
Mr. Hughes, I just don't understand the math question. A lot of times it's, sorry, it's a test, I can't help you, and then back to staring into the corner.
Is your opponent at 0? All right, keep playing then. That's like I don't even worry about.
And it's like one of your students who listens to the podcast, Shawn, if I have a Grafdigger's Cage in my yard, do I put that on top of my deck with Academy Ruins? If yada 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 yada.
If I have a kid who listens to this podcast, man, that kid's going to ace that class. That's for sure.
If you are out there, shoot us a line over on Twitter. We will hook you up with an EOT goodie bag.
Or just write it down on one of your quizzes in Shawn's class,
Yeah. Just write EOT at the bottom, and then I'm like, oh no, they know.
EOT, gotcha.
That's why I'm always afraid streaming. I'm like, okay, I can't say anything too outlandish, because even though I don't use my full name and stuff like that, I don't want to get founded. I want it to happen.
When it finally does happen, we just gotta fight our way out of that mess. But anyway, we've crafted the theory. Now we must play the games. So, Steven, how do we play the games? In an intelligent way, not just play the games for fun, but intelligently.
Smash, forget, smash?
Turn sideways.
Sometimes you have to take a little bit of a thought, and whenever you see your opening hand, you go, all right, what's this going to do? And then once your opponent plays your first land, then you modify that. Be like, oh, okay, they're most likely on this. Like a mountain, you have Teamer or you have mono red. Most likely in this format on Magic Online, it's going to be mono red. Yeah. But if they leave with a Botanical Sanctum, that's most likely going to be Teamer. Or it could be a Bant version of, the gift deck maybe. So whenever you're going through, your test games, you need to pay close attention to what hands and what cards are doing well for you, so that you can try and find more of those effects for instance, if you're playing with like Servant of the Conduit and you're like trying to ramp out some stuff, let's say you're playing the green-red ramp deck. You need to identify, is it better to have Servant of the Conduit or Channeler Initiate, or is it better to have Beneath the Sands or Natural Convection, the 3-mana instant speed ramp spell? And in most situations, you might be surprised to learn that the 3-mana spells jump you straight to the 5-mana spells. So in some situations, you're better off playing a 3-mana ramp into 5 so that you can play a turn 2 removal spell. And it just like puts you in the situation to tempo your game. And that would be something that you would pick up on as you're playing your deck. Whereas in the old standard formats, you would have a 2-drop into like a Hedron Archive or an Explosive Vegetation. Like, the metagame shift based on what cards, and it's cool to be able to like play with that flexibility. And like the same thing whenever you're playing with Teamer or an Emerge deck, for instance, it's like, do I need to commit to the board, or do I just need a Tormenting Voice so that I can put these things onto the board later? Yeah. And that's just one of the things whenever you're playing, you have to figure out what's going on and what's working for you. And then also, if you're not playing on Magic Online, you really need to switch off who's on the play and draw so that you can figure out what your deck does in those situations. And then another thing that Shawn is adding is...
I that wasn't for you. That was just for me.
Oh, okay. Just an adaptation to the spreadsheet.
That sentence doesn't make full sense. Full sense.
But like I was saying, it's important to realize some cards can be replaced with others, like we were mentioning with the ramp spells and the removal spells. Like, is it more important to have a Braid versus Mardu, or is it more important to have Harness Lightning so that you can take out a big guy, like a Glory Bringer, for instance? And so it's just a way to refine your decks, really, is what the play aspect comes down to it. And you shouldn't be expecting to just run hot with like your first list. Like, you have to understand that you're going to make mistakes somewhere along the line, and that if you're not doing well, that's not a sign that the deck is bad. It's just a sign that you need to tune it more and then get more comfortable with it. Because like, for instance, I've been like stress testing a Gifts deck this past week, and it started off probably about a 48% win percentage, but by Tuesday night I was able to like 5-0 a couple leagues back to back, and I like felt really good just to be able to like turn that corner. But at the same time, it was a lot of going back to what the deck was originally doing and what you needed to be focusing on in the theory aspect of it, because it's a fluid process. While we're giving you these in a step, you should be going through each one and reviewing and making adaptations to your deck.
Yeah, and if you made a really interesting point there at the beginning of this bit here, Stephen, where you said, if they lead on a mountain, you should be able to know that they're on mono red, or if they lead Botanical Sanctum, they know that they're on some kind of Teamer deck. I would say that if you can't identify what your opponent is doing within the first 2 or 3 land drops, if they haven't played a spell, but they have only just played lands, if you haven't figured out what they're on within the first 2 or 3 land drops, I'd say that you are already infinitely worse off to win that game in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I did find that pretty early is important. Like, to Steven's point that I really liked was, if you go turn 1, like, so say I'm playing the green-red ramp list, and I go turn 1 tapped to green-red land, and I have Harness Lightning and Servant of the Conduit in hand and Stir the Sands, and I pass, and my opponent plays Mountain untapped and plays like a guy, or more often than not pays Mountain nothing and passes back. Well, there's not many decks that are leading on Mountain. Maybe Mardu, but a lot not. And most of the decks that are kind of creature-based. So because the 3 to the 5 matters more in this format, you seeing the possibility of a tempo play by playing a land, not playing Servant, and passing back is pretty good. Yeah. Unless you don't have the 3rd land to play the Stir after you draw a card. So seeing that tempo opportunity, because that's again what we talked about earlier, either the control deck or the aggro deck. And if your opponent leads Mountain, you're probably not the aggro deck. You're probably going to be a control deck if you're ramp. Because that's why you have board wipes. So the tempo value of being able to kill the turn 2 spell, so turn 3 you're ramping, and they're not hitting you until you have a 5th land in turn in play, that's huge. Minus a haster. Or they're hitting you with a 4th land in play. Either of those options is good for you. So I think that's a good point.
Yeah, very cool. Hey, any more to the play piece there, Stephen?
Yeah, it's also pretty important to take note of when you need to start turning the corner in certain matchups, because like for instance, against red, right? If they're down to maybe 3 cards in hand, but they've been stuck on 3 lands for forever, you can probably assume that there's a Hazaret lingering around. And it's like, you need to be pressing this game out before that guy gets on board, or gal, I guess. But it's just...
Is it a gal?
Yeah, Hazaret's a chick, because Bantu and her are sisters.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
Thanks, MTG Lore. It's super sweet, though. You guys should check it out.
My firstborn daughter will be named Hazaret now.
I'm going to hold you to that.
We're going to call it Little Hazzy.
Probably not going to happen, but I'll try and hold you to that.
Little Hazzy.
The internet will hold him to it.
That's fine.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
That's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of the play aspect of it is just learning all the minute details of your deck and just accepting that you're going to make mistakes and that the list isn't going to be perfect.
Yeah, and I would say that there's actually one more really important aspect that I'm not, maybe I haven't hit on it yet, but it's playing more post board games. You will play twice as many sideboard games as you will game one, no board games, if that makes sense. So being able to know what you're just doing that from the get go, infinitely more valuable, I think, than just playing the stock 60 and then not tuning at all.
True. The only thing with the sideboarding, though, is that if you're doing your initial deck creation, you want to make it to where your main deck doesn't have to lean on your sideboard in the majority of matches.
That's a really good point, too, yeah.
Because it's really key to get the 60 as close as you can and make some concessions somewhere. For instance, the gift deck might have a rougher time against blue-red control, but it might crush red because it just throws too many guys onto the board and it has natural lifelink in the deck. Yeah. And it's just important to make that concession. Okay, control is going to be a little bit worse. We have these sideboard cards. Bring them in, and that's what you want. Yeah. But it takes a while to get to that stage.
Yeah,
and also in this standard it's an exception, but in most standards there should be 1 or 2 decks. I said, identify 5, but there should be 1 or 2 you test 80% of your matches against.
Yes.
Because normally there's 2 or 3 best decks.
Yeah.
So if you're saying, I tested against 5 decks, I tested 25 games against all 5 decks, we tested 25 against each of them. Most of the time that's not the right play. Normally it's better test 10 versus 3 and then test 20 and 20 or something like that versus the other 2. Test, or whatever the number is divided up, test higher against these 1 or 2 decks you're going to see far more often, especially at the higher tables.
Yeah.
If a top 8 is 6 of one deck, and then the top 32 is 20 of one deck, then that deck's just taking over the format like Marvel was not that long ago and stuff.
Yeah. And
you're testing evenly against everything. You're well, these other players might play these other decks to beat Marvel.
No.
You're doing yourself a disservice. There's a reason there's that many of that deck. You need to be ready to play that deck before anything else.
Yeah, if you can't beat Marvel, like you said, or Cat combo religiously, you're probably playing the wrong deck. You can beat the rest of the field, but when the field is only 20% of non-Cat decks, you have made a grave error, I think.
Yeah.
I know that you made an error. I don't even play Standard at all, and I know you've messed up.
To that point, this is also why for Grand Prix and such, it's really important to get your 2 buys or lock up any number of buys that you can, because in the first few rounds of the tournament, you're going to be playing against random stuff. Most players at a Grand Prix are going to be on a casual basis, to be honest.
Yeah.
You're going to have the casuals who are trying to break into the competitive area, and it just so happened that this Grand Prix is local, so they're going to go to it. So your first few rounds are just going to be against whatever. And that's why it's also important to just have a deck that knows what it wants to be doing, because if you can do that against a random deck, you're not goldfishing, but you're pretty close.
Yeah, that's a really important thing to note, is to understand what kind of tournament you're going into, especially FNM. You can take whatever pile of 75 that you want. To a Grand Prix, it's a little bit more flexible, but once you start hitting to the PPTQs and the SG Opens, that's when you really need to think, is this a deck that I know what it's capable of doing? Because you don't walk into those things unprepared. That's foolish, I think. Yeah. So that just leaves the last pillar of the testing that Shawn kind of drew out here for us, and that's actually documentation. This is probably the most boring part, but it is probably one of the most important parts at the same time. Not to say that the other parts aren't as important as well, but this one's really important too. And really what it comes down to is understanding, the numbers of wins versus losses. So make sure that you have that. If you can identify the top 5 decks in the format, whether it's, Emerge, Black-Green, whatever else, if you can break down your win percentage against which one of those decks, you will start to see where your deck falters a little bit, and that's really important to understand. Make note of major cards against each of your matchup. If you manage to draw, let's say you're playing an Emerge deck, if you manage to draw Elder Deep Fiend enough times, you will start to see that becomes a card that is paramount to winning a majority of your games, and identifying which cards those are, and especially if you're like building a brand new deck, is really, really important to understand which of these cards are the most important to winning your games. And also, figure out which ones are most important to beat you. So that can kind of give you an edge to kind of build around and maybe tweak the deck a little bit. And also just, it sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but being able to see the evolution of your deck as you went through the weeks, whether it's, version 1 to version 10, you can see those little tweaks here and there. And if there's a case where you realize, well, maybe version 1 was a little bit better against the meta as it shifted, that can lead you down some interesting paths there, and that can create some really interesting, I think, just deck building decisions. And I mean, I've got notebooks full of deck lists that are like 2 and 3 cards difference, but to look back at those and go, oh, this would be really good right now, is really important to identify, where things could have changed a little bit up for you. So simple steps, but yes, his notebook's right there. Yeah,
I have a third one in my bedroom.
Online in Google Drive, so that way you can share it. You have access to it all the time. But
yep.
Yeah, Google Drive is my best friend for taking notes on decks.
Yeah.
This is 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're lucky, you have a group of friends, like you have a group of guys like these nincompoops, and you get to test with them.
Yeah, it's useful to have a group that you can test with. You want to have people that have differing viewpoints. That's like another part is like, you don't want to have everybody the same view. Like, you want some control players, some mid-range players, and some aggro players, and realize not all of you have to be on the same deck, but you want differing views because they'll know how to attack your deck because they view things differently.
Yeah.
So that's really important. That's also kind of why I say to like have a list of your deck. You have your deck list there. It's really easy to do online, as well as like cards you might run. Just because like it's good to just look at it like, okay, how would these cards change the game? But I mean, having a variety of people is really important.
Yeah.
So.
And especially, it's really important because, like, I know that between the Texas Magic squad, a majority of them are aggressive players. But I've seen some situations.
No, majority's not.
Isn't it anymore?
There's a lot of like mid-rangey and control
I've never
players.
seen Drew not sleeve up Goblin Guide.
No, like Drew's real aggressive, but it's pretty diverse. It's a pretty diverse group, and like a lot of us are more aggressive now than we used to be. But there's a lot of us who have a history. Like Dustin and I have a long history of being very control oriented. Yeah. But we've recently, the more we've worked with Drew, become a lot more proactive. Yeah. Because we just kind of see him be more successful that way, and kind of realized if we can be more proactive, we're gonna have a higher possibility of just closing out these games and just punishing our opponents for keeps rather than keeping these control decks and punishing them for weak keeps. We have these other options.
Yeah, I remember the one thing that Drew has said that stuck out to me the most is that especially when he's playing aggressive decks, is that if you can limit the number of choices your opponent can make during a game, you have that much greater chance to win. So why?
It's the red mage version of the blue ideology. If I see more cards than my opponent, I win.
Yeah.
But if they play less spells than me, I win. So like it's just the red mage version of that viewpoint.
Yeah. And it's always really interesting if you can somehow apply a red mage's mentality to a blue mage's deck and vice versa. You can get some really interesting, just the dichotomy of the ways that you play decks becomes very interesting, and it makes you really flexible as a Magic player, I think.
Yeah, it's real, and then it's you want to limit the number of choices they're making, but you also want to limit the number of choices I'm making because in a long tournament, less choices, less exhaustion, less mistakes, less tilting because there's less times I'm going to look back and be like, oh, if I would have sequenced turn 4 differently, turn 12 would have been so much better because if you're playing an aggressive deck, there is no turn 12. So there's gives and takes to everything. Sometimes formats are better for control, but what I've learned is when things are neutral, being proactive is really, really good.
Yeah.
The Eldrazi were my gateway drug into proactivity.
Yeah. Mono Blue Devotion was mine. Like once you cast Master of Waves and you get 15 tokens in play, you're like, oh, I see how this game works. It's supposed to work.
Yeah.
Once you put a Mistcutter Hydra into play for 6, it feels really good.
You know what, Steven?
I started swaying whenever I watched Drew qualify for the Pro Tour by Teamer Battle Raging, become mincing a Swift Spear over top of his opponent's second or third Siege Rhino for the win to go to the Pro Tour, and I was like, oh, well, that's pretty good. This is real fast. Okay. So like
Well, no, the Seadra opponent player just didn't have any heroes downfalls. Like that was his own mistake.
he kept a handful. He was get out of here.
Wasn't it Crackling Doom at that time?
Yeah,
Or
no,
whatever
he
it
just
was.
kept a handful of. He just kept a handful of siege rhinos. Like, I'm gonna beat this red player, and then he just ran him over. So I mean, like sometimes you want to play the decks that you're comfortable with. Like in the current standard, you can play any archetype that you really enjoy. There's even combo decks, but sometimes like the best deck isn't what you're comfortable with, and that's where being diverse and using a lot of theory is really important. So it's not so foreign to you.
Yeah, and that's really important. Is like being able to identify when it's time to not be yourself and be a red mage.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the base theory a little bit. Like being able to be an adapter is pretty big in Magic.
Yeah, especially in mid wide open formats like Standard is right now. I mean, you look at even with the truncated results from Moto right now, there's still like I could probably give you 10 different decks off the top of my head that would be viable for any given week. So know your stuff. Know your stuff. So yeah, any last minute closing thoughts here on testing, guys? Like I think this is really comprehensive, and like if you have other ideas about testing or things that work well for you, definitely feel free to share those with us, and we'll be happy to talk about them with you, maybe in person.
Yeah.
I would say before we transition,
Yeah.
if you have ideas, if you do things differently, if you don't understand why we do something the way we do it, if you want to see examples of like tracking sheets, things like that, contact us on Twitter, and like I'll be glad to have discourse over the whole process.
Yeah, Shawn will give you a whole hard drive full of notes.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Shawn started streaming, and I will be streaming soon.
Yep.
So if you want to check that out, it's another source that you can talk with us and rack our minds as to why we do the things we do.
Mm-hmm.
I have cleared up my entire weekend schedule to do nothing but stream this weekend. It's gonna be
Competing with that Pro Tour.
I know.
Yeah, I was
I
fixing
will
to
have,
say.
like, if you get bored of watching Standard and want to watch more Standard, just more entertaining with me on it, or Shawn, or Steven.
If you get bored watching Standard, you want to watch more Standard.
So
could be
that's why
anything
I'm
in that
playing
box. It could be a
Vintage
book.
Saturday.
It will be more entertaining than the Pro Tour. I can guarantee you that. There will be mild profanity.
Depending on the time, you might luck out that they're just on replays. So.
Probably all day. Or you just get like that static image of Nicol Bolas like doing this number. And it's like, yep, we've seen this image for the past 40 minutes. And some really bad commercials for some stupid movies. Not throwing shit at the PT coverage, but man, it's bad sometimes.
Yeah, you have to see what they're doing.
I'll take
for
a
this
job
one.
there.
We were talking about that before we started. Why can't we be on the desk? Why can't we be doing things? What if they showed episodes of this during the breaks?
I feel confident. I would actually be really good in their publicity department. I feel confident.
Oh my god.
Wizard stock plunges by 14 points the following morning after Shawn's column debut.
No. I'm sure they have a dump button. We're golden.
A dump button.
An adult button?
A dump button.
Oh,
It's
a
on the
dump
radio.
button.
Everything's got a 5-second loop for a dump. Whenever somebody says something bad, they press a dump button. They're like, don't do that. That's when you hear a little like small jump in the radio, and then it like slowly spreads back out and gives you the
I'm
gap.
glad we don't have that on us.
No.
Well, they clearly don't have that, seeing as the last guy cussed on an interview.
Oh my gosh, that
was the best
brilliant.
looking face ever.
But
Did it like multiple times.
But then, like, the
Yeah.
censor meme was just golden.
So great.
Because it's a kid's show, we can't talk about it, but go check out the censor meme from Pro Tour Amonkhet. It is pure gold.
Oh, gosh. All right. So back, if you want to meet us in person to talk about
So
playtesting,
if you want to talk to us in person about playtesting, or maybe even playtest some games, or just have a drink with us, we're going to be in Denver the weekend of the 18th, and I think we've decided to do this the night of the 19th. So after day one of the Grand Prix, we are going to be where, Shawn?
as soon as round 9 finishes, we'll be at the Crown Plaza, which is about a 7 or 8 minute walk down from the convention center.
Yeah.
It's east from the convention center. Crown Plaza, Denver. We'll probably talk about this on every episode leading up to it.
Oh, we will.
And you can get us on Twitter and all of our handles, and we'll let you know where it's at.
Yep.
But we'll be up there hanging out. If it's really packed, we might if we'll let everybody know, but it shouldn't be too bad the night of day one.
Yeah.
So if you want to come grab a drink, you want to hang out, you want to talk, you just want to say hi, you want to get some sweet swag that we're making, well, that's where we're going to be.
So, the sweet swag. Should we show them the sweet swag? I think we should show them the sweet swag. Yeah,
Yeah, why not?
I feel like this is locking it in. Like,
yeah, it's happening. They've been ordered. So if you're watching this on YouTube,
they've been ordered.
They've been ordered as of last night. They are on their way. Though they're being printed by now. So if you happen to see us at GP Denver in any way, or if you play against us, if you just see us in general, come up to one of us and say, "Hey, you're on that dumb podcast." We're like, "Yes, we are," and we will give you
dumb podcast.
Drum roll. Can I get a drum roll, guys? Boom! Our very first token. Check that out. I've already shown it to the guys, but yeah, this is Bub the Zombie. This is an eternalized token. It's a 4/4. I reached out to a new friend of mine who did the artwork for this, and granted, it looks like it's trying to puppy hump the logo. It's still the most.
I'm not going to be able to unsee that. Thank you.
I saw that earlier, and I was like, I can't leave it again. It's just, oh gosh, he really loves this logo.
Yeah, my friend Rebecca did a really good job with this. Like, we knocked it out last night, and I could not be more happy with just how cool that looks. So yeah, we will have these on us. It's going to have all of our contact information on the back of it too. So we will be passing these out to literally everybody. So come and find us at GP Denver. Come and have a drink with us. Get a token. Make some.
It's eternalized. So if the cool thing is it's a token that you can actually use, and it's got all of our contact information. And like whenever you eternalize, you exile from the graveyard. So you don't need to keep track with where that card is. You put it in play and stack this on top of it, and that's legal. So there you go.
And I will say this: if you get on camera and you have one of these in your pocket, and
they won't let you use it.
Casually put it up there. You'll
they
be my
won't
best friend forever.
Yeah, just have it sitting next to you on the table and ask them to move. Like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm not selling these things, but I will not say no to any kind of promotional that you do for us. So if you see him raining from the sky from a helicopter, just don't question these things.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is Bub the Zombie, named after the sentient zombie from George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. You know, as a little tribute to him. So yeah, come and find us and get one of these awesome tokens from us. We're gonna have, I think we got like 500 of these crazy things. So yeah, super excited about that. Yeah, we're gonna be up there having a great time, even if we don't day 2. I mean, when we do day 2, we're gonna have a really great time.
Yeah, how we'll hang out at the meet and greet for a while, but any of us who day 2 might be less of a while than the other ones, but we will still hang out.
Or you can catch me with the Modern Side events on Sunday. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm preparing for all eventualities.
There you go.
So, I think that wraps up for tonight. So definitely follow us all on Twitter. I know Steven's over at Spellpierce. Justin is at
Justin Faulkner.
Okay, there you go. Will you be streaming this weekend?
Probably not streaming this weekend. I'm trying to get back into Moto streaming. Oh, that wasn't my Moto handle.
Your Twitter handle?
Sorry, that was my Twitter handle.
That's what we needed. That's what I was asking for.
I want to say it's Zev Kalen. I gotta log in and figure it out. I'll do it later.
We'll do that later.
Yeah. You tweet it out after
It'll
you
be
get
on
it.
the Facebook page.
Yeah, I'll tweet it out. There we go.
Yeah, so shoot it to me. I'll put it on the Facebook page. You can find Shawn at Busted Sleeves, and you can find me
on everything.
On everything, yeah. You can find me over at EOT Newsflash. I might just make a brand new Moto account and just name it EOT Newsflash just for simplicity's sake. That's an extra $10, right? Not that big of a deal. But yeah, we're gonna be.
At least it gets you nothing.
Yeah, absolutely nothing. Gets me some play tickets, right? I mean, that's something, right?
I think it's like new play ticks, but
it's
sure.
Worse, yeah. Can get a free draft off that, yeah. But yeah, we will be. I'm gonna try to do as much stream as soon as the PT's over and a lot of those are solidified. I'm gonna be on Moto next week testing. I know Shawn will be, Steven will be,
a lot.
Maybe Justin will be too. Maybe you'll catch us in each other's streams, hanging out, having fun, making bad jokes. But yeah,
playing against each other, seeing both hands.
Each other, yeah, that might be a thing. But yeah, definitely come check us out over on Moto. keep an eye on the Facebook page. Just look for the EOT News Flash on Facebook. Follow us all on Twitter. I'll put the links to our accounts in the show notes. Send any questions you have to eotnewsflash@gmail.com. Yeah, we are ramping up, and one of us is going to take this stupid GP down in Mile High City.
As we get closer to the GP, if you want to watch testing, I know we're going to be testing against each other, and I've been working on an overlay that will allow me to have both of our videos and audios going, so you will be able to hear us discussing plays and discussing the game as it's going. There'll be no music in the background, so it should be us talking like it's a podcast about what's going on. Like I play a spell, and you're like, "Oh, I was playing around another spell." Or I do an attack, and the other person's like, "That attack didn't seem right," and we talk about why, and just all those kinds of things.
And then we time out.
No.
No, you get soft locked periphery nodes.
Oh, God.
Because that still happens. Year and a half.
Get out of here.
The best part is, it has to happen with Drop of Honey by default. So all the lands players on Legacy.
We're playing Modern. I'm getting confused all of a sudden. Oh, we're playing Standard, guys. Yeah. And also, if you are interested, I know that Shawn and Steven both have promotional codes for Mana Traders, which I'm going to be using as well, and we'll probably have a code as well. If you are interested in using Mana Traders, we're going to give them one.
Whichever person you like better, go to our Twitter page, and we'll give you a code.
I'm going to make a poll.
Oh, man.
Most of my polls are over within a day, and they're usually pretty lopsided, so I don't expect this to be any different.
If you poll in the DFW group, it's not going to go well for me. It will not go well for me because I have a whole squad of people that's going to vote against me by nature. Because they're all traitors.
That's not an option that votes for nobody, so nobody wins. There we go.
All right.
Oh gosh.
So I think that's enough shenanigans for tonight. Come see us in GP Denver. Get a bub token. Follow us on all of the social medias. Come watch us play on Moto. Maybe you'll play against us on Moto. Have that treat.
In that case, then don't watch us on Moto.
Yeah, don't do
that.
That's called ghosting, and that's frowned upon. But not
cheap.
really.
Yeah.
No.
All right. So, Steven, it's your line, and it's actually on the token.
I'm so excited for that. You have no idea.
That was just
all right, guys. Let's do it again.
Oh my God.
Let's do it again. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night.